when we got started this morning, one of the very first things we went after was the red hartebeest. And we actually set the gun up on the bog pod at that long range. It was 700 yards. We started driving down the roads trying to get ahead of where they anticipated this red hartebeest, a true top-tier trophy. And we got to one spot, he stopped, and we were set up and ready and took a 380-meter shot. Yes.
Well done.
We worked for that one, didn't we?
Well, Marty, it was a very tough start to the hunt. We had a long day yesterday, did a lot of walking, saw a lot of animals, struggled to get a good shot in, but today we saw this big boy from a distance and we followed and followed for a long way till eventually you got a shot in.
Long ways, that's like 8 kilometers we followed him for.
Something like that. And yeah, well, you made a great shot at 380 meters and dropped him on the spot.
This had to be a special animal because Denver was locked in on him, and it was going to be one of those whatever it takes kind of days to get this guy. I'm glad I made this shot.
Yeah, well done. It is a beautiful trophy and the first one in Africa.
Yes, thank you. It's become like a personal challenge to me to take the black wildebeest down, especially after we got busted so many times yesterday. Pretty sure Denver knew how I was feeling about the whole black wildebeest thing. We were disappointed. Denver said at breakfast, so this is how he thinks about this stuff and plans this out ahead of time. We were going to go to an area where we likely would see a black wildebeest bull by himself, where we would have some cover to put a good stalk on him, and where we would have the opportunity to slip up on him, have the wind in our favor, and he'd be by himself, where there's not going to be 9 other herds running through there to get him all stirred up.
And so that is exactly what happened.
On his chest. Reload. Just make sure, but he's down. He's down.
He's down.
Ah, Marty! Well, Marty, since you arrived here, this has been the animal that has had the most appeal for you so far.
Oh, by far. This was personal for me, missing that shot yesterday and all the times we've been busted.
Yeah.
You know, trying to stalk these guys when they're out in the herds, and there's 3 or 4 or 5 different herds of different species, and one of them starts running and they go nuts. Yeah. It's like a rodeo, and they're all going around in circles.
Yeah. No, we had a nice stalk. We actually went back from where we saw him and we came up in the brush.
Yeah.
Climbed over a few fences, which was an obstacle or 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had a great shot at 326 yards and you dropped him on the spot, which is something you don't always see with them.
Yeah.
So, no, really well done. It is an absolutely great shot, beautiful trophy.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
These animals are amazing. You see them at a distance, see them through the binos or the scope, and they're just so majestic. Their chest is out. They're strutting their stuff. Even this one, just before he turned finally, he kicked up his hind legs like he was a bronco or something. You know,
Yeah.
this is cool.
Yeah, no, they like to own their own spot in the wild, and you could hear him when he saw us in the end just before we had a shot. He was snorting and moving up and down. He did not like what he was seeing, and he was throwing up a big fuss about it.
Yeah, well now he's having a bad hair day.
The last one.
That's the last hair day, right? Right.
Yeah.
Day 3 was an exciting day for us, a different style of hunt than what we had been doing in some ways. It was planned as a full day, and we went up to the mountains. One of the very first things we do is we came across a couple of trophy kudu bulls, and so Ruth was the designated shooter that morning.
Well, there's a reason they're called the gray ghosts. It was a very bushy area. They are famous for going in and out of those trees in the shadows. And I probably had a 2-second opportunity of a broadside shot, but with all the trees, I literally could just not get it in the scope. I couldn't find it.
And it's just going to make, when we do get that kudu, it's going to make it all that much more satisfying when that happens. So then we went up a little higher onto the mountain, and right away came up on a situation. Again, Ruth was the shooter with a Gemsbok.
It was a pretty short stalk, and we had great cover. It was like the perfect storm, and there were 2 bulls out there and another herd up on the hill. And when the herd came down, they stood, and he turned sideways, perfect broadside shot.
Now you hit that front shoulder that you hit. Okay, reload. It looks like a very good hit.
Got him in the shoulder, 165 yards. It was great.
This is day 3 of your safari, and we came to the highest part of the property, the southern side, the mountains. We saw quite a few nice kudu bulls this morning, and then we decided to come right onto the top in the open grass plains. We stumbled across this beautiful old Springbok ram. We got up to 165 yards, and you made a pinpoint shot on the shoulder, and we thought he went down much further, and we went around, and eventually he was lying right on top here, not far from where you shot him. I'll take 50-60 yards at the maximum.
Right.
But you got him, he's down, and he's just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. I love him.
I'm so glad.
Can't wait to see him on our walls.
Yeah, he'll take a few months, but when he's there, he'll be there forever.
Yep.
Well done, I'll give you a 5.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So then we went to we went to a water hole and found a good place, basically an ambush kind of thing. So Ruth was set up to shoot if a trophy came in, but when they did come in, or they weren't trophies, probably a 150-pound warthog, and so I had my handgun with me, okay, and a 375 JDJ. Denver gave me the green light to go ahead and take that. So that was a 40-yard shot, and so this was the first official handgun success at Coppermoon. I am just exhausted. That was the 3rd long day in a row. Denver asked me, he said, "So you want to try some more, or are you ready to go back?" And I said, and it's unusual for me, but I was tapped out, and I said, let's head back. He says, "Okay, how about this?" And this is Denver's way of saying he's not done. So we headed back, and we took a little detour down into another valley, and they saw a trophy diker. It's a very small animal, about 50 pounds, perfectly suited to the surroundings as far as coloration and stuff goes, and he was in the bush. I couldn't find him. I couldn't see him, and then finally Denver helped me get focused in on him.
On the right hand side of the animal is the shoulder, then you just squeeze the shot off.
It's the situation where you're exhausted and you're still called on to make that shot, and we did. It was 273 yards and got that one too, a nice little trophy diker. It was a challenging day, an endurance kind of day, but certainly fun and part of the overall experience here we're enjoying. Denver dropped off the trackers at different spots so they could be extra sets of eyes and ears up and down that valley. And we got to our perch on high ground looking over the bush and then the far hillside. As usually happens, the unexpected happened. We're there for kudu, and the opportunity presented itself with just a giant of a trophy eland. We started looking at that animal and he checked every box. The wind was blowing head on, 30 miles an hour, probably gusting to 40. You could feel your body move. When Denver looked at me and gave me the thumbs up that he's a shooter, now the pressure's on me. He just kept turning. We kept thinking, okay, now this is it. And then he would turn back the other way, and finally he turned quartering away, just enough to give us that window. I got reloaded, and I let Denver know that I was ready, could take the second shot, and then at that point he says, there's no need to, he's going down. And so I watched him fold up and go down. Just a massive animal. You know what, those 6.5s, how much does he weigh?
That's just amazing. Oh. Well, that's why I bought my oneself, but I mean, the eland, the biggest antelope in the world. It took 30 yards and then started tumbling.
Yes, what's good. Well done, Marty.
Well, Marty, it's day 4, late afternoon. We were out waiting for kudu, and then he came out of the brush out of nowhere. And I remember on the first day you saw them and you said you wanted an eland.
The first time I saw them, I hadn't really done much research on these, and the first time I saw the majestic bull and the sheer size of him on day 1, I just kind of fell in love with him, and it was kind of, I guess, providence that he showed up this afternoon. Tough conditions.
Very.
350 yards at
30 miles per hour.
30 mile an hour winds, mostly head on, and he just came out to graze. And so we talked this through, and we did ballistic calculations on wind drift and came down. And in that wind, I was concerned about the effect of the wind on my body and the ability to hold the crosshairs on. And we put them on the bog pod, and it was sat down on the ground on a hillside, and it was incredible to make that shot with a 6.5 284. Denver coached me on exactly where that bullet had to go for penetration, because it would probably not have penetrated the shoulder on an animal this big.
Yeah, no, you did well to wait for him to quarter away a bit, hit him a little bit behind the shoulder, and then the bullet will enter into the vitals. And I mean, he ran 30 yards and started tumbling, and well, yeah, he is down.
He's down.
Massive, beautiful
Yeah.
bull.
Now we get to put this bad boy on the truck.
Yeah, that's the not as nice part.
Yes.
But Marty, a massive congratulations on a beautiful eland bull.
Thank you, sir.
You know, right away, what I noticed my first time out here at all is that we started seeing animals right away, and they were everywhere. And everything that we were seeing was on the run. And so we saw some springbok, and I happened to spot one off to the side, a couple hundred yards away, and it's the first time I've seen the animals. I just said to Denver, I said, is that a good one? So we kept the trucks behind some trees, so then we crept down, kind of put in a short stalk off of trees and slid in the shadowy portion. You know, you start to see when there's a lack of cover around here, the value of shadows, to be able to sneak in and out of those. And yeah, Denver, we set up the tripod, and Denver put a range on it, 240 yards.
Got it. Eric, it's day 5. You joined us today. We arrived at the lodge at 12, and it's just after 2, and you're already on the board.
On the board.
It took your parents a day and a half, and well, you seem to not waste any time whatsoever to take this nice springbok ram in the heat of the day.
In the heat of the day, yeah, no problem. He gave us a good shot.
Yeah, about it was 240 yards.
240 yards,
Slight
yeah.
cross breeze, but you made the perfect shot of him and dropped him in his tracks.
Yeah, he felt, I didn't even see him fall through the scope. He was already belly up.
Anyway, a massive congratulations.
Thank you.
Had got word from one of the trackers.
One of the spotters, yeah.
And that there was a couple of kudu bulls that would maybe be in a good spot for a potential stalk. And again, as he said, the goal was to get mama shot.
It was a pretty good trek up the hill from the truck to get up to the crest, and then you creep up to that crest so that you don't give your position away. And we had good intel from the tracker of where they were located, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they're not just across to the top of the bush, they're halfway up that mountain. I took a look at it with Ruth, and she just did not feel comfortable with a shot, most likely that we're thinking is going to be in excess of 500 yards.
I've wanted to kill a kudu since I was 15 years old. First time I ever saw one, I think either a picture, a video, or just, you know, kind of the picture of this magnificent apex antelope that Africa has to offer. And so I knew I wanted to have the opportunity. So Denver and I piled off, it was almost steep enough to almost be a cliff. And so I was following Denver, and by the time we got to a spot and set up, we had moved maybe another 60 yards forward, a lot more than that in distance down, but in terms of overall length. And he found the kudu. There were some cows up ahead too, actually. And so there was a lot going on as they were climbing up and out of that whole canyon. And he put a range on them, and they were 597 yards with a couple steps to go.
That he was, the round tree, but
Yeah,
to the right there's a big tree.
Yes, I see that.
There's one small one to the left of it.
Okay, straight to the left of
Get
it.
that tree, he's going to walk straight into it.
Oh, I feel. I got it.
Okay, 600. Okay, standing.
Yeah, buddy! That's what I'm talking about! Yeah! Woo!
And one shot, you could hear it smack, and the bull fell. I actually, in the scope, saw his feet tumble up, and we kept an eye out to make sure he wasn't getting up before we decided to head up.
What a freaking shot! That is amazing.
He's hard to see.
incredibly.
It is. I could not, even looking at it, until you told me where to put it and I saw him moving right under that little bush.
Wow.
Buddy.
I didn't realize that the kudu were so skittish and so elusive, especially outside of the rut, and just how privileged that I was to be able to take a nice mature bull like that. It's funny because I said, you know, well, what's the best way to get up there? He goes, one way in, one way out. We were literally on almost the top side of one slope in a canyon with a big drainage and a heavy bush at the bottom. And then he was almost to the top of the other side of that far slope. And we just had to pick our way through.
Well, Eric, we were sitting this afternoon hoping to get the grey ghost, and
Yeah.
we put our trackers out at different locations, and we were sitting not long before dark when we got a call on the radio saying there were a few bulls eating up on the ridge. So we rushed over and we spotted them, and we decided this bull was worth taking.
Yeah.
So we cut the distance a little bit, but I mean from just about 660 to 597 yards.
Yeah,
and
well,
you made the perfect shot to drop him right here on top.
We'll just round up and call it 600.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's an amazing shot. I mean, to shoot him at that distance is just, it wants to be done. It's not every day you would do that.
Yeah, and kudos to you two for helping me get set up. It was a quick stalk
Yeah.
to get them because they were on the move and trying to get to where we could see them and catch my breath too before I shot. They're tough to see.
Yeah.
Right up in here. They just blend in so well, but man, he's beautiful and can't wait to hold his horns a little bit.
Yeah, no, he's a beaut, but a massive congratulations, Eric.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
One of the trackers saw a herd of about 16 Gemsbok. And the Gemsbok is an unusual animal in that the cows are bigger than the bulls, and the horns are bigger on the cows than they are typically on the bulls. And so there were 16 of them there to choose from.
We followed them multiple times. We were walking, we were driving, we were walking, we were driving, and they kept just going higher up the mountain. We had a shot at 540 yards, I think, the first time. Not a good shot. We had a shot at 700 yards the second time. Again, we couldn't identify the perfect cow. And finally, we wore them out. We were worn out, and they were standing under a tree. At 260 yards, Denver was able to identify the perfect cow. Yes.
Just on the shoulder.
Okay.
Reload. Well done, Ruth.
The mutt strikes again.
Well, we got up early again, started stalking, and then we bumped into a herd of Gemsbok, and you guys immediately said, well, let's pursue them and see what we can do, and we followed them for a great distance. Eventually they came into this valley, and they stood here and gave us a chance to stalk up to about 260 yards, and then you made the perfect shot.
Yeah, they were moving, kept moving. We kept following them, got in the trucks a couple of times, and I think we wore them out.
That's what gave us the chance to cut the distance, and they were standing nice and still, so we could go through the herd carefully, and we picked out this beautiful old cow. She's just magnificent. Got a set of long horns on her.
Yes.
And she's just beautiful. So Ruth, high five to a very good Gemsbok.
I have seen the growth in my wife from being that person that was iffy about a 100-yard shot. Now she's anxious to get behind that scope and totally comfortable. And that only happens when the staff help instill that confidence.
It was a great trip. Coppermoon's service and help and hospitality was absolutely second to none. The guide works hard, the trackers work hard, the kitchen and hospitality, the food was fantastic, and I absolutely cannot wait to taste it again.
We're looking forward to that next trip.
Yep, sure.